Every day, I woke up, brushed my teeth, and headed straight to work for the morning rush. I worked at this pretty big and popular gym at the heart of the city. Folks like to work out before heading to the office, so it was pretty busy in the morning. I had to be there early to do my job as a personal trainer. I don't work there anymore, though. You'll find out why. Before I continue, make sure you're subscribed and that you've hit that like button below. Thanks. On that particular day, I noticed a new customer. I had never seen her before, and I knew everyone from the morning rush. This woman was staring at me hard. She had a different trainer, but I still noticed her looking at me when she was working with her trainer, and I was busy with a client. After about an hour, she was still there. I guess she didn't work because most people who started that early had already left. My manager approached me while I was getting clean towels and told me I had a new client. I wonder who, I thought, before my manager led me to the woman who had been staring at me for an hour. "Hi there, I'm Veronica," she said in a low voice that I supposed was meant to be flirtatious. "Tucker," I introduced myself, shaking the hand she had stretched out. Veronica wanted me to train her in everything. She apparently wanted to work every muscle group, so I told her how I worked. We went to the different machines and I had her do a rep or two, but she insisted I did them and she watched. I wasn't fully comfortable, but she hadn't crossed any of my boundaries. We jogged for a while, then she insisted we do squats. I told her her form was perfect, but she kept insisting that I correct her and show her the way she's meant to be doing it. I brushed it off and proposed we move to a different exercise. This business went on for a couple weeks. She started to get comfortable, sometimes grabbing my arm or laughing at literally anything I said, even when I was dead serious about her needing to stop suggesting that I should take my shirt off. We trained pretty much every day, and on the days we didn't, she would call the gym, ask for me, and not shut up for a half an hour saying how much she missed me. One day, she was back at the gym and she had me trapped with her, chatting about nothing. I zoned out, but she snapped her fingers before my eyes and brought me back to reality. "I was thinking maybe you could train me at home," she said, putting her hand on my arm with affection that slightly disgusted me. I started making excuses, saying my manager would probably not like it or I didn't have a car to drive to her house. But she said, "Oh, I already talked to your manager about it. He says it's fine," she said with her pearly white smile. "And I can pick you up and drive you," she said. I turned to glare at my manager, but saw him sinking behind the counter, avoiding me. "Great," I said in fake excitement. I would definitely be asking my manager for a raise the second this lady left. I was standing on the sidewalk of my apartment building when I saw this red convertible speed close and park right in front of me, with Veronica wearing sunglasses and waving at me. "It's winter, it's freezing. Why do you have the top of the convertible down?" I complained as soon as I sat in the freezing leather seat. We drove for about 20 minutes out of the city and into the suburbs. 20 excruciating minutes. She had music blaring the entire time and wouldn't stop singing and asking me to sing sappy love songs with her. We reached a gate, which she opened with her fingerprint. We drove up her driveway until an enormous mansion came into view. It looked like a castle. I sat there with my mouth open, which Veronica saw and laughed at. "My sister and I own a tech company, along with shares in several other successful businesses," she explained. Then she leaned over and whispered, "We're rich," into my ear, as if that was meant to seduce me. She wanted to give me a tour of her house, but I insisted that we should go straight to her gym. She took me to the enormous room, which I was surprised to find was even better equipped than the gym I worked at. Why did she go there if she had a much better gym at home? I trained her at her own gym a few times, but also at the actual gym because I told her I found it more convenient since I was closer to other clients. It was also getting colder and she still wouldn't put the top of her convertible down. I thought it was because she wanted me to get cold and cuddle up to her, and thinking back, it probably was. One night, I was getting ready for bed, or more like eating a bunch of bowls of cereal while watching TV, when my phone rang. I groaned and got out of my cozy couch and blanket. I picked up the phone and was disappointed to hear Veronica's voice. "Can you come train me?" she said in what was closer to a baby voice than I would have hoped for. I looked outside and saw it was snowing violently. She insisted, and I insisted that it was snowing too much to get there safely. But right before I hung up the phone, she shouted, "I'll pay you double," which made me hesitate. She went on to say she'd pay me double, and not the gym, but me personally, meaning I would get double what she pays my gym, which is a lot of cash in my pocket. She said she'd pick me up and drive me home right after, so I sighed and agreed, before hanging up the phone and changing into my workout gear. I only went downstairs when Veronica rang the doorbell. She finally had the top of her convertible down, so at least I didn't completely freeze. She tried to make conversation on the drive there, but I stayed silent and looked out the window. I felt kinda dirty selling myself like this. I strutted quickly to her gym as soon as we arrived, ignoring her when she stopped by the kitchen offering me a cup of coffee to wake up. I was very strict during that session because I was so annoyed at her for requesting this and at myself for agreeing. Through the huge windows in the gym, I could see how much snow was falling. At least a foot of the window was covered with snow at that point. I could tell Veronica was regretting having asked me to train her because of how bad my attitude was. I was really acting like a drill sergeant. She finally seemed to give up and told me she was done working out for the day. "Great, let's go," I said enthusiastically, grabbing my bag and coat off the floor and heading towards the door. But she stopped me and pointed out the window. "I can't drive in the snow. It's too dangerous," she exclaimed. I wanted to scream at her. I was so angry I could burst. I asked her what I should do, if I should walk home if she wasn't going to drive me. "Well, don't be silly, you can stay in my guest room," she said with a smile. She grabbed my hand and led me up the stairs to the guest room. She gave me pajamas and all. "I'll be in the room down the hall if you need anything," she said flirtatiously with a wink. I almost threw up in my mouth and locked the door the second she closed it. Definitely didn't want her sneaking into my room in the middle of the night. I woke up the next day to a loud knock on my door. I opened it to find Veronica, who put her hand on my chest and pushed me back into bed before setting a tray of breakfast on my lap. She was wearing one of those fancy robes that rich women wear in movies after they killed their husbands, so naturally, I was afraid. She watched me eat and then insisted I should take a shower. I showered in the adjoining bathroom, but when I reached for the towel, I found it wasn't there. My clothes weren't there either. Did she sneak in while I was showering and steal them? I didn't know what to do, but then I grabbed the bath mat and covered myself with it before opening the door a little. I saw her laying on the bed I slept in, sniffing my dirty clothes. She saw me and pretended she didn't do anything before handing me a set of clean clothes. I put them on quickly and she rushed me to the car. The roads had been cleared of excess snow and salted, so the drive was safe. She wouldn't stop chit-chatting, even when we were parked outside my building. Suddenly, she grabbed my face with one hand and planted a kiss on my lips. I was stunted. She then basically kicked me out of the car. She waved goodbye and sped off, leaving me stunted on the sidewalk. We kept training, but at the gym, because I told my manager to tell Veronica that I wasn't allowed to train people at their houses anymore. After training one day, I was trying to get away when she invited me to her house as a friend. "I want to repay you for being so kind to me," she said while tracing circles on my bicep with her finger. "Why don't you come over for brunch on Saturday?" she asked. I don't know if it was the look on her face or the look on my manager's face, but I felt like I needed to say yes. I felt like I didn't have a choice, so I said yes, while dying inside just a little. I took the bus to her house. My heart was beating out of my chest, but from fear. I was so distracted, I almost slipped on an icy part of the sidewalk. She opened the door as soon as I rang the doorbell, took my coat, and led me to the dining room. I was surprised to see other people there. A young woman and two young men. I say young, but they looked around my age. They smiled at me, especially the girl. Their smiles all faded when Veronica spoke and said, "Kids, this is Tucker, my boyfriend." My eyes grew wide, and so did theirs. The two guys seemed to be fuming, and the girl just looked kinda sad. I was too frozen by what she said to correct her. She didn't even let any of us talk because she sat us right down and we started eating. Around halfway through the meal, one of the guys put his knife and fork down forcefully and shouted, "What the hell, Mom? He's our age!" Which triggered the other, and that one shouted, "And what's wrong with you, taking advantage of a rich older woman?" at me. I was stunned. Veronica started yelling at them, and they yelled back. The only quiet ones were the girl and me. I realized I needed to get out of that house ASAP. I snuck away from the table while they were all getting heated and started frantically looking for my coat. I looked in every room and couldn't find it. Finally, I opened a door I hadn't seen before and froze. It was a room full, absolutely full of pictures of me. They were all over the walls. The room was full of red lamps and lights. My stinky gym clothes were there. She had sweaty towels in there too. It all looked like a shrine to me. The woman was obsessed. I spotted my coat and snatched it, putting it on as I headed out the door, right before Veronica came running after me. The bus stop was a couple blocks away. I just had to outrun her. I heard a yelp behind me and saw that she had slipped on ice and fallen. I stopped, dead in my tracks, debating whether I should help her back up. I was about to go when I saw her sons coming after us. Hell nah, I thought, before I ran in the opposite direction towards the bus stop. My bus went past Veronica and her sons. She had mascara running down her cheeks and they were shaking their fists at me. But the more distance I put between us, the more I calmed down. I never saw Veronica again. As soon as I got home, I sent an email to my manager saying I was quitting. I also started looking for apartments and found a nice one with 2 roommates on the other side of town. You're probably wondering if all that was necessary. And yes, it was. I was terrified of living in my apartment after I saw that room dedicated to me. I felt like I'd be sleeping in my room and Veronica would watch me through the window, or worse, sneak into my apartment and kidnap me. I had nightmares about it. I only found peace when I moved out and moved far away from my old life. I became a gym teacher at a school because I supposed that if a creepy middle-aged woman was lurking around there, they'd call the cops immediately.